I thought we can actually talk about a little bit around the filmmaking process and filmmaking as a process of scholar activism also, but more about the technical aspects. Do you have any background in filmmaking, or did you learn specially how to do it and how to bring people together in this process, and what was your experience like?
Oh, thank you for that. So I had no experience whatsoever in filmmaking before I produced this film. So I made an application, a funding application to produce a film, and then I got money for that to the equivalent of 1 million rands. And I hired a filmmaking company which helped me to make the film. So we had a schedule that we followed, a shooting schedule, and we had to be quite meticulous in terms of what we do in the morning and also in the afternoons. So mornings and afternoons are quite important for filmmaking because of the sunlight. So that's what I learned, and also I also learned in the process how to do filmmaking interviews. So, for example, you need to connect with the soul of the person that you are interviewing, and you need prior knowledge of that person, a prior relationship, which is not just a few months relationship, maybe a few years as a researcher. So that was advantageous for me because I had been working with the protagonists of the film for about 3-4 years. So when I was interviewing them, I was deeply connected with them in their souls. And it was not only that. The deep connection stemmed because they are my own people in terms of working class, race, politics. They know that Mnqobi is just a child from a village a few hundred kilometers away. And I think global South scholars are at an advantage. Even global North scholars are at an advantage in the global North when they are researching global North people who are suffering, such as the nomadic pastoralists in Sweden or whatever. As long as you can relate to the people in terms of struggle, that is when you connect to the people's politics. And politics and emotions are inextricably linked. And I think that was my advantage, but I listened carefully to the director of the film, who instructed me in terms of my body language, in terms how do you ask a film question. No matter if you know the person or you don't know the person, but your body language you have to be quite politically intimate. Like you need to be serious and intentional about what you want to pull out of the person in a non-extractive way. Extractive ways are like, I'm going to report this to my superiors at the university. But a non-instructive way is speak your mind. go on, just tell me. I ask you a question, and then I lean forward. I look at you. You speak, you speak, you speak. And then I lean backwards. And then your speech comes to a conclusion. And my body language sets the scene in terms of the following questions that need to come. And since these things are deeply emotional, for example, there are scenes where people were just weeping. There was a family that we interviewed. Everyone was just weeping. From the eldest to the youngest, the minute they sat on the chair and the camera on the left and myself in the front of them, they just cried. And none of them could answer the questions. They were just weeping. They just wept and wept and wept and wept. And then we decided, okay, we're going to cut these scenes out of the film because we didn't want to tell a story of a tragedy, sorrow. We wanted people to be eloquent in terms of their politics and not to cry on screen, but to be eloquent in terms of what is it that they want. So ultimately, the people that made it to the final cut are those people who are eloquent in terms of what is it that they want. And that is not coming from me, the producer or the director. It's coming directly from them. So essentially, this film was co-created because I remember in many occasions, some of the protagonists, especially the main protagonist, just realized what is going on in terms of film production behind the scenes. For example, he will have the microphone stuck onto his collar, and then he will say, "Sound test, 1, 2, 3, sound test, 1, 2, 3." After learning that from many days of shooting in the field, so each and one of us knew that, okay, we had our roles to play. For example, the camera. So basically, when filming, the respondent or the protagonist or the antagonist doesn't have to look into the camera. So the camera is, for example, it's on my right here. And let's say you are interviewing me. So the camera is here, and I don't have to keep on looking at the camera as a respondent. So you, as an interviewer, you have to look at me in the eye so that I'm not distracted and look at the camera. So we were learning all of that on the go from the filmmaking company that we hired. So we learned about the early morning shots, the afternoon shots, the positioning of the camera, the positioning of the body language when conducting interviews, and also there's post-production process, the editing of the videos, and also the incorporation of the soundtracks. So what we did was that we incorporated for the soundtracks original music. We approached musicians and composed real, socially, politically conscious music that you hear throughout the film. For example, those lyrics, "Give us back our land, you foreigners." That statement, that's part of the song that I wrote, and then it was developed by the musician. As cold as it is, but the essence is quite clear. And that song, at the end, does the salvation of this land belong to us? That song it's a brand new song. It was written specifically for this film. So there's a music album that is a sister project to this film. And that song is very important. Like, does the salvation of this land really belong to us, the people of the Global South? Yet there are many people who are not Global South originating people who think that they are custodians of the Global South lands. So that song was written in that context. So sound, cinematography, and we had a very brilliant cinematographer and the sound person who's also the director of the film. Both went to film school. So in terms of arts and academia, we don't necessarily have to separate that, because we as human beings, we are gifted in many, many ways in terms of artworks. And we have used art as politics. There is no revolution without a song. As you know, the song, intentional. What do you call the song that we always sing in CASAS gatherings?
International.
The international.
The international.
Yeah, it's called the international. Yeah, so there's no revolution without song and dance and poetry and the visual arts and the paintings. For example, in Bogota, at the university there are portraits of Che Guevara on the walls. So arts is politics, and as academics, as scholar activists, we need to tap into our creative selves so that we make ourselves much stronger. Even when we do salsa or we sing, it should be purposeful, and it forms the holistic whole of ourselves as human beings. Because we are not scientists in the compartmentalization of Europe, because in Europe you are either an academic or you are not. This thing of scholar activism is quite new, and not many people will really accept in the European context to be called scholar activism, because once you call yourself a scholar activism, you are an opponent, for example, to capitalism, to white supremacy, to colonialism, to Israel, blah, blah, blah. So these are the gifts that we have in the Global South. And I think the greatest arts, revolutionary arts, that you find in the world today are in the Global South. The music, the dances, the paintings. As you saw this painting in the usual JPS paintings, that was on our T-shirts during the 2023 Beijing conference. That painting speaks volumes. more than an academic article, and that painting can be understood by a person who's even not an academic. So through music, through the arts, we speak a universal language which is understood by people who are outside the control of neoliberal universities. Because neoliberal universities want us to define ourselves as output-driven academic machines that strive for publications, heartless publications that we strive for each and every year. So artists, they don't really care about that. You can produce a film once in 5 years. You know you have done what you can with the limited resources that you have, not the hype of academia, email after email, WhatsApp after WhatsApp, pressure, produce, meeting after meeting, like output, report after report, and like promotion after promotion. And when you look at your people are still in the same position, the same precarious, poor position, yet you are like at the top of your career. You've made a fortune out of the publications. And what do you call that? Maybe it's theft, academic theft. And maybe what can solve academic theft is scholar activism. And maybe through the arts, and maybe through the combination of scholar activism with the arts. Imagine like an academic conference which is interwoven with the arts, the performances of highly conscious artists, the poets, the musicians that speak truth to power. We have them all over the global south. But we are not sufficiently incorporating them into academia because we are just neoliberals, chasing after salaries and academic echelons.
Wow. Thank you for very inspiring and moving and unsettling conversation. And you have hit the nail on the coffin. I mean, as academicians ourselves, and particularly those of us who care about a lot of issues, care about people, but are always under this pressure to survive within academia, but also try and make your space for scholar activism, bring life to your research, disseminate it to the people, bring it to those who actually we are reading, we are studying, right? Often our research never goes back. We only take and take and take, and a lot of the times people are tired of giving. And so there's always this question that we keep asking ourselves, that are we doing the right thing? Are we doing justice to those who we want to study? Right? Are we giving the voice? Are we really showcasing their voice? And in this case, this movie, that the documentary or the film that you made, Mathonga Elizwe, Spirits of the Land, actually echoed the voices of people that matter, and so wonderfully done. May I ask you, how long did it take you to complete the entire project from the beginning till the end?
So our first day of the shoot, after the concept note and waiting for the money, that itself took about a year. Our first shoot was on the 1st of June 2022. And then the final cut was launched on the 2nd of September 2024. That's when we were done and dusted. After many, many cuts and many revisions, So from 2022 to 2024, that's 2 years full that we completed a 39-minute film.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but that's the way it is.
That's the way it is. And also it shows the way you explained the entire process of learning. This is you have entirely moved into another field of study itself and learning every single skill together with people, with artists, with filmmakers. So it shows also, I think it's a reminder to an entire academic community and scholar activists likewise, that we need to keep learning and push ourselves to new frontiers. And like you mentioned, maybe we need to let go of the pressures ourselves, even if it comes at a cost. Acknowledge that and but move towards making the real research, if I can say so. I mean, meaningful and impactful real research. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The process of learning is like the expansion of the mind, because the mind is in continuous motion of expansion. The mind loves learning. And what is so embraceful in this film is the collaboration of people with multiple skills. The filmmakers, the protagonists, the academics, who have different set of skills and who can stand for what they stand for throughout, but without undermining other people's voices. So the protagonist will tell us, okay, this is what it was. This is slavery. This was always slavery, and it is still slavery. And you, as an academic, you know for a fact that that is true because you have read about it. And the artists, the filmmakers, they know that that is the fact. But then the filmmakers, they have the ultimate voice in terms of what goes into the final cut, because they are the experts in that. You know, no matter what you as an academic or as a protagonist think should go into the final cut, you have to respect the artist nature of the filmmaker, because they have been to film school, they have 20 years experience in film. So you give them part of the story, and then they help you to mold your story into the deliverable that you want. Because I had no training in film or cinematography or sound or editing of the film. I gave them the concept and the story and conducted the interviews, and they helped us to put the whole thing together, even the sequencing of the scenes in the film. And by the way, those horrible scenes that you see in the film, the most horrible scenes, were provided to us by the protagonists, by the land claimants, by the marginalized people. So they have a new strategy of resistance today, and that's a camera. They have the camera. Whatever happens, they record. Whatever happens to them, they record. We have multiple recordings of white resistance to land reform, of white violence to black bodies in South Africa, thanks to the people on the ground who have the smallest of smartphones as a tool of resistance.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think you put it so wonderfully. Camera as a tool of resistance. And we are all today holding on to our mobile phones at every point and trying to record every single thing. But yeah, if only we can put our resources together to actually bring out other voices, right? Very serious voices and serious injustices. So if I may ask you, you mentioned that you have applied for a grant and you got almost 1 million of the currency. Was that enough? And what is this agency that was giving you the grants? Like, where did you apply the grant for? Was that amount enough, or did you have to raise any additional funds to finish this project?
So I applied for R1 million at the National Institute for the Humanities and Social Sciences, but it was not enough because this film has a sister project of an exhibition. So 700K went towards the film and the rest went towards the exhibition. But still, for the film, for example, I had to raise more money to pay the musicians who helped us with the sound aesthetics. So in total, the project with extra funding, it was like 1.5 million rands, South African currency, which was a lot of money, but it was well spent. I think we did the best that we could do with this film, and we have a few more in the pipeline. The film itself is doing well, surprisingly well, because it has been like you have created something out of mud. For example, out of clay or mud, you can, as a child, create an oxen, a cow. And then that thing just starts walking. And to your surprise, it's walking and making noises. So this film is doing just that. It has just become alive and uncontrollable. It has been shown over 16 times since it was launched. And it has been shown locally, internationally, at universities internationally. It has been translated into Portuguese, and it is currently translated into Espanol by one of the comrades at CASAS. I think it's Daniela in Brazil. So it has been a huge success only because of the collaborative energies that went into it, into its creation. I think all these energies combined really resonate with anyone who watches it, even with the right wingers, because I think this film can really make the right wingers change their minds. I've seen it happen, but it just needs bravery to be screened in right-wing circles, because right-wingers can be violent. So you can get a shoe flying to your face whilst trying to answer questions at the end of the film.
Actually, to just maybe, as we wrap this discussion up, to quote Jennifer and June's book, Scholar Activism and Land Struggles. So the authors clearly mentioned that scholar activism is a very creative process, a collaborative process, and we need to constantly think of how we can come together and produce something that is very impactful, right? And I think the creativity is at the heart of it. And then the second challenge they talk about is also how do you finance this creativity? How do you pool resources together? Because often when you want to showcase the voices of the marginalized, as you rightly worded it, uh, you do not have enough funding coming in, right? Unless it is really supporting the mainstream agenda. A lot of the independent filmmakers or independent researchers, and even those who have their positions within neoliberal institutions, as the authors argue, do not have access to adequate resources. So how do you creatively and tactfully use the resources that we have and do the best, like you said, do the best that we can, right? And I think you have done beyond best, if I can phrase it, because the movie, every single scene, this entire screenplay, the words, I mean, if one watches the entire movie, you cannot not feel the pain of the people who are voicing their concerns and what land means to them. Right. And you mentioned that you have consciously edited out the scenes where people were in pain. But I think maybe if you can, you should pick up those scenes and just also showcase them as beyond the scenes, behind the scenes saga or something, because I think crying, often I've been reading and hearing about how people express anger, and it's always articulated as irrational, as if emotional is not what its value, right? It is so important to articulate, but maybe it's also important to showcase just the tears, right? And maybe some people can be moved with tears, combined with, of course, a powerful argument. So yeah, on this note, I think I would like to end this conversation today. Thank you very much for joining us. I think this conversation with you is going to inspire a lot of scholar activists, not just who are working within agrarian issues, but I think beyond. It goes beyond to working class solidarity as well, like peasant working class solidarity. I think this is one definite picture that will bring us all together. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I hope that it gives a lot of us inspiration to continue with the work that we do in whatever way that we do within our neoliberal universities. And let's continue to support each other. For example, two universities in the global north that have screened my film, the University of Exeter in the UK and Vassar College, upcoming on the 10th of April. They have offered me honorariums. And I think universities in the global north can do a great deal in helping us achieve our dreams. Because those honorariums, they go a long way in the screenings, for example. Because these screenings are beyond the budget of the production of the film. For example, I'm screening this film tomorrow on the 21st of March in our Human Rights Film Festival. And I had to get my university to pay, actually my ex-university, which I'm still collaborating with, to pay for those flights, which were not part of the budget. So at CASAS we have people based at different parts of the global north. So I would urge with them, if they want to screen the film, may they please offer a small honorarium for the film so that we keep going, because we need to screen the film not only in elite university circles, but also in grassroots community screenings. We haven't done a single community screening across the country, and that needs funds. And whoever makes the film, anywhere in the Global South, anywhere within CASAS, you will have to launch it at a university, screen it nationally, internationally, and as well as go back to the communities and screen it there. Bring the equipment. So I have had to get the protagonist onto one of the first screenings in Johannesburg. They had to drive for hundreds of kilometers, and that was unprecedented in filmmaking, where you bring your antagonist, your protagonist onto the stage for a Q&A afterwards. I spent a fortune in that, but that was so successful that you just don't care how much you have spent on that. So basically, my appeal is that let us support artists, let us support filmmakers, let us support writers, let us support scholar activists, let's raise funds for each other. And those of us in the global north, let us release those funds back to the global south. If you are a global north-based, south-originating scholar, you have to be giving back to your people back home. You have to fight for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I'll end today's conversation with just one line. I remember a famous lyricist in India, Javed Akhtar, in one of his interviews mentioned that art is the vocal cord of the society. So I think we need to take it forward, most definitely. Thank you very much.